Here we are, another month over. Let's get into some reading wrap-ups from September and October. These 2 months I traveled quite a bit, so I didn't get to read as much as I had hoped, but I did do a good little handful, so let's get into it. So in September, I started off reading Ciao for Now. This follows Violet. She is in Italy with 3 of her college classmates, and they are out to win an internship for a New York fashion label. So with the internship, there is a little bit of Devil Wears Prada, Project Runway kind of vibe going on, which I really enjoyed. You get a little bit of romance with Violet and Matteo. They were like enemies to lovers. I wouldn't say like it was like a strong hatred towards each other, but they, got off on the wrong foot. So you kind of see how their romance evolved. But I think the biggest takeaway for me was Violet's realization throughout the book, the friendships that she was forming and things that she realized what she really wanted. And I appreciated that part of the book a lot. Overall, I gave this one a 3.5. Okay, the next books I read, I'm gonna try my best to explain this in a cohesive, make sense mode. But I did start Zodiac Academy. I read 4 of the books. So where do we want to start? I feel like I need to do a PowerPoint for this, but hopefully if you've not heard of it, hopefully this will help you understand what the book is about. I don't know, there's like a lot of moving parts in this series, so I'm gonna try to like cover it as best as possible. All right, so you have Tori and Darcy, who are twins that grew up in the mortal world. And then one day, somebody comes to them and tells them that they are heirs to Solara. And Solara is a fantasy world that they were originally from, that their parents were the rulers of. But then they died tragically, sending the girls as infants to the mortal world. Okay, are we good? All right, so this gentleman takes them to Solara, and the girls they're intrigued. They're taken to the Zodiac Academy to learn more about their powers and learn how to do magic. They are more intrigued though on the inheritance portion because they grew up in such poverty in the mortal world. So they really don't care about ruling Solara. They just want the money that comes with it. So when they first arrive at the academy, they are brought in as freshmen and everybody is given their elements. And so you can hold multiple elements. Tori and Darcy happen to hold all of them, which is air, water, fire, and earth. They also get their orders eventually as you progress in your training. Your orders will form, and that can be, it could be a dragon, a werewolf, a vampire, stuff like that. So the first book is basically just following their year. Well, I guess the first 3 months, I would say, at the academy. And they kind of become like they're getting harassed by 4 heirs. Okay, who are the 4 heirs? All right, so when Tori and Darcy's parents died, they needed somebody to rule Solara. So it became the Celestial Heirs from the Celestial Council that ruled Solara, these past 18 years. And those were 4 adults, part of like pretty powerful families. So then those 4 parents have 4 kids, boys, that are now at the academy in their sophomore year of college at Zodiac. And they're not intimidated, but they want to place fear in the girls. So that they do not want to rule or take over the throne, because it is their birthright and essentially it should go to them because their parents were the ones that ruled prior. There's a lot of like bullying and manipulation that the boys are doing to the girls to, make them leave the academy so that they don't complete the 4 years. So then that book leaves on a very dramatic end. And then the second book picks up literally the next day from the first book. So at this point I was invested because I'm like, oh my God, I need to know what happens. So I read the second book, and The girls are at a very like crossroads, like, do we stay or do we go? They ultimately stay, and then we witness like the next few months at the academy and what goes on there. We are then introduced to nymphs. I'm pretty sure the second book did it and not the first. I cannot remember, but nymphs are introduced, and they are pretty much the enemy at this point for the entire world, entire like city. And essentially the nymphs can kill the fae and like absorb their power. So it would be really bad if Tori and Darcy were killed by a nymph. These like nymphs would become so powerful because they hold all four elements. So you kind of just, the next book, you're really, there's more of them going into like their classes, and there's like little romance happening here and there. You end up really liking, I mean, I ended up liking Darcy a lot. Darcy's the very relatable twin. And then Tori is just like a little more rebellious, like kind of just beats to her own drum, which is nothing wrong with that. But when you can hear her perspective, because it's dual perspective between Tori and Darcy, you're kind of like, girl, you like know what to do, and then you go against your own like thought process. It frustrates me sometimes. It really does. The second book does also introduce the heirs' perspective too. At times you'll get either Caleb's perspective or Darius, Max, and Seth. Those are the heirs. Okay, so I hope that kind of covers the first two books. The third book touches more on introducing Darius's father and the type of, person he is. And he's like one of the heads of the Celestial Council. And he's just an a-hole to an extreme, like just horrible human, period. So you get introduced to that aspect. They meet more of the Celestial Council, and they truly just hate the girls. And the ending of book 3, it's setting up such a change for what's to come. Like, the girls will not be the same after what happens. So after book 3, I like took a pause because I just needed it. You just need that mental break. Then I read 7 Year Slip, which was the perfect little break from the Zodiac Academy. It follows Clementine and her living in her aunt's apartment. She's inherited it after her aunt has passed on. And the magical thing about this apartment is that at times it can take you back to 7 years ago. So through those moments when it goes to 7 years ago, she meets a gentleman, and it's a beautiful buildup of friendship that leads to romance. And then it follows her life in publication and her self-realizations through that. This book was just very well done, very well written. There were moments of laughter and then crying. It got me to cry, and it just really hit the spot. You can really tell that the author had dealt with some grief in her life, the way it was written. It was very well done, and it resonated a lot with things that I've dealt with as well through, my own grieving process. So I definitely appreciated the book for that. There were moments of predictability, like I kind of knew where it was going about 100 pages in, but I was totally okay with it because I was rooting for Clementine the entire time. Highly recommend. I gave this a 5-star. It was so good. Okay, so then I did read Zodiac Academy 4, which was long as heck. This is where I've paused, and I have not continued the series yet because the books continue to get larger and larger as you go. This one was just, it was good, but I think we could have cut a lot of stuff out. And then I just became more frustrated with Tori. Like I said, I hate when I can read your perspective and then you do the opposite of what you're telling us as readers. It just freaking bugs me. I don't know. It just frustrated me. So I paused on the series after book 4, but I do highly recommend it. Overall, book 3 was my favorite. I gave that one a 4.5. The other books I've given a 4. So I did enjoy it. We'll see if I continue. The next book is almost 900 pages, so I don't know. At this point, we're just on a pause. We're just leaving it as a we'll get back to you. And then the final book I read was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I love Abby Jimenez's writing. It's just so quick. I think I read this in like 2 days. so fast paced. You get both perspectives of Brianna and Jacob, and they work at an ER hospital, and you just follow their meet, their, they misunderstand each other to begin with, but then it flourishes into a beautiful romance. The thing about this book that I was not enjoying was that these characters were in their 30s and there was so much miscommunication that could have been resolved by having a conversation. And that's something that I don't really enjoy reading about. A lot of the plot that was going on in here also happened in a book that I read in August, Pretty Little Mistake. That was done very well. Those were characters in their 30s that communicated and expressed things openly and had conversations, and I appreciated that. This lacked it for me. I feel like the things that Brianna was dealing with, we didn't really get in depth to her character until the end, when she was kind of spiraling a little bit. Not in like a bad way, but in a very emotional moments that I kind of came out of left field for me. So for that, I ended up giving this one like a 3.75 4-star. But overall, like I mentioned, Abby Jimenez's writing is so easy to read that saves the book. So there we have it, the wrap up for September and October. Have you read any of these books? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next video. Bye guys.